Alrighty, in this video we're going to be looking at time conversions. For all of these conversions, you do need to know how many minutes are in an hour, or how many hours are in a day, how many days are in a year, how many years are in a decade, and so on. So if you don't know those things off by heart, in the link in the description you'll find a file or a website that has those listed so that you can use them as references, because you need to know them off by heart to be able to answer these questions and actually do these time conversions. So keep that in mind. We've got 3 examples here. I'm going to take you through my thought process and how I would show my working on the page to get the right answer. They're fairly straightforward. There is just one misconception that normally I find students have that I'm going to clear up as we go. So the first thing is whether we multiply or divide by a certain amount as we go. So in this example 1, we've got convert 12 hours into seconds. Convert 12 hours to seconds. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going from hours to minutes first, and then from minutes to seconds, and that's going to be my final answer. But the misconception here is that because hours are bigger than seconds, they're a longer time period than seconds, a lot of my students will want to divide. Because if we're going from something big to something small, you usually divide, and that makes a lot of sense. However, when we get our final answer, it's not actually going to be a smaller answer, okay? It's going to be the same period of time, just like 60 minutes is 1 hour. It's the same period of time, except this time we're going to have a really massive number, because in the same time period, there is a lot of seconds in these 12 hours. So think about it like that. There are a lot of seconds in 12 hours. And so as we go from hours to minutes and then from minutes to seconds, we're going to be multiplying each time. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my 12, okay, because that's where I'm starting. So I'm going to say the number of seconds equals. It's going to start with 12. And then to get from hours to minutes, I need to multiply by 60, because for every one of these, there is 60 minutes. So I'm going to be multiplying by 60. And then to get from minutes, which this represents, to get to seconds, I need to multiply by 60 again, because for every minute, I have 60 seconds. So another multiplication by 60. And that's going to equal, now as you can see, I have my trusty calculator in hand. So I type in 12 times 60 times 60, and I get 43,200 seconds. Alrighty, now second question. We're going to be converting 26,280 hours into years. So in this case, it's the opposite scenario. For this many hours, we don't have as many years, right? There's going to be a lot of hours in each individual year. And so this many hours is not going to be that many years actually. So we're going to be dividing as we go. But I'm going to use the same logic. I'm going to say the number of years is what I'm going to be setting up. Is going to be what I started with, 26,280. And this time I'm going to be dividing. But this one's a bit trickier. So if I'm starting with hours, the next logical thing to go to will be days, okay? There's 24 hours in every day. So I'm going to divide by 24. Now I am in days. This expression represents the number of days in this many hours. Now I'm going to go to years. So it's just one more step. I've got to figure out how many days in a year. It's 365, unless we're on a leap year, but we typically just go with 365. So I'm going to divide by 365 as well. And that'll get me how many years that many hours is. So 26,280 divided by 24, divided by 365. You can do that all in one line, and you get 3. That's a really nice answer. 3 years. And finally, question 3, convert 2 decades into minutes. Okay, so decade is 10 years, and we have 2 of them, so that's 20 years. I'll still do the proper calculations, but just keep in mind 20 years. So that's 20 years, but that's a lot of minutes, right? You think about how many, there's 60 minutes in 1 hour, so there's going to be a lot of minutes. And because there's going to be a lot of minutes, I'm going to be multiplying as I go. So I'm going to start with minutes. Okay, now I start with my 2 decades. And to get it into years, I'm going to be multiplying by 10. So 2 times 10. Now I'm in years. I want to go to days because that's the closest thing that I can easily do the calculation for minutes. So the number of days in each year is 365. So I'm going to times by 365. And now I'm in days, I want to go to hours. So I'm going to multiply by 24. And finally, to go from hours to minutes, I have to multiply by 60. So before I put in my calculator, let's just recap. Pardon the pun. 2 times 10 gets me into years. Times 365 gets me into days. Times 24 gets me into hours. And times 60 gets me into the minutes that I want. So 2 times 10 times 365 times 24 times 60 equals a big number. So I'm going to put the number down and then the commas. I get a 1, a 0, a 5, 1, 2, 0, 0, 0. So to figure out what that number is, I'm going to work backwards. So this is my thousands, this is my millions, and I noticed the answer is, I should put equals here. I should have written it under my equals, but so be it. 10,512,000 minutes. Right, and that is time conversions.